Hello, this is Skylit Lake reading Midoriya Izuku's Quirkless Friend by That Ghost of a DR. Chapter 3. Where Will He Go? Sukachi Naomasa was hopeful. He rarely let himself be this hopeful, but he trusted Eraserhead to be a good influence on the kid. It's a shame he had to lie to him, or his version of lying. He figures he couldn't tell the man the truth, the full truth, until Midoriya did. Midoriya Izuku, the boy with a nose for trouble and the knack for finding it. He ended up in Naomasa's office often before UA, usually because he was involved in one thing or another. Typically, it was people accusing him of stealing or disturbing the peace, or whatever biased thing they could come up with. Midoriya rarely did anything to be considered bothersome, much less illegal. He had a heart of gold and a mind as quick as a whip. If you bothered looking past his red boots, Naomasa saw the kid's potential. And if he hadn't made it into UA, or his dream of becoming a pro hero failed in some way, Naomasa had offered to help Midoriya be a detective. Midoriya had enrolled in those classes as soon as he could, fully believing he would never be a hero. He would have, just not in a professional sense. Then he met Toshinori, and suddenly Midoriya's life turned for the better. He was in UA, and he was on his way to become a great hero. He had great classmates that treated him well, and a teacher that actually cared about him. Naomasa looks at his phone on the coffee table. Eraserhead had seemed genuinely concerned for Midoriya's quirkless friend. Naomasa never liked lying, but he had promised Midoriya that who he was before and who he is now are two different people. The quirkless boy he was before died when he was given the quirk. The boy he is now is someone new, someone who is going to become a great hero, someone who didn't have a past connected to hatred and violence. Someone was happy. Naomasa was proud of him. He was so proud of this kid for achieving his dream. But he also worried. As much as he wished what happened and is happening to Midoriya never did, he also doesn't want Midoriya to just erase his past as Toshinori did. He wouldn't wish what Midoriya had been through, even on his worst enemies. But those experiences are part of what makes him Izuku. Midoriya promised he was never going to forget his past, or the boy who had died forgotten, but he needed a clean slate. Naomasa wondered how long it will be before Midoriya recovered enough to reclaim his childhood. How long until Midoriya he knew came back. This Midoriya hides behind false smiles and soft whisperings. The one he knew smiled small but true, and had a voice that, while quiet, was precise and bold. Naomasa stood up from his couch and went to his bookshelf. Next to all the biographies and between true crime stories was a notebook. Midoriya had given it to him, an analysis of himself, a story told in tidbits and details. Everything about Midoriya was in that book. No other notebook was as extensive as this one as far as Naomasa was aware. Every detail and trait about a quirkless person was written down. After reading the thing, one couldn't argue that the quirkless were significantly better suited to survive a world of unpredictability. Naramasa smirked at the thought of even top heroes falling behind someone like a quirkless, quicker reaction times, and the power of a chemical called adrenaline, which quirked humans do not produce anymore. That's possibly what made All Might so unreachable, and why Midoriya is going to far surpass that threshold. A quirkless boy with a quirk. Who would have thinked it? He sets the book back, knowing one absolute truth. Midoriya Izuku is going to change the world. He can say it out loud 1,000 times, and it'll always do one thing. Register as a truth. It always registers as a truth. It makes Tsukachi Naramasa hopeful. Chapter 4. When were you going to tell me? Bakugo Katsuki knew the answer. He had to know. He grew up right alongside a quirkless kid his whole life. He had even tried on those blasted red shoes. The toes were too wide, and his feet kept slipping. It was a pain for his 6-year-old self. Katsuki didn't raise his hands though. He rarely did in class. He just waited until the teacher started ranting about some biased things. Katsuki hated to admit it, but living with Deku his whole life meant he knew quirkless were physically better than them. If only Deku had a backbone growing up, maybe they could have stayed friends. He hated thinking about their shared past. He had too much to atone for. He was surprised when Aizawa-sensei had called on Deku, and he answered. Sure, there was anxiety bleeding into his voice, like a fucking waterfall, but he still answered. They went back and forth with questions and answers, until Deku answered something wrong. Scratch that. Until Deku straight up fucking lied. Katsuki furrowed his brow in confusion. Deku never lied. Not even to the people he should have lied to. He's not... Deku stuttered out. He's not, around anymore. He, left after middle school. Oh, I'm sorry, Aizawa says, bowing his head. Deku wasn't as clever as you think he was, phrasing it the way he did. Katsuki knew what he meant. He also knew it was probably referring to one of the things he regrets saying the most. Aizawa asks for more information regarding quirkless people, and Deku gave the man his textbook, which was filled with notes and corrections. That was a lot of misinformation. Katsuki frowned at the sight of the book. He knows what most people say about quirkless people was usually wrong, but he never imagined there was this much information. The class continued with Aizawa teaching from Deku's book before they were excused for the day. Deku went up to the front as Katsuki left with his gang of followers. He didn't come out. He sits in the kitchen. His claimed space, since none of the extras, except Deku, knew how to fucking cook properly, and waited for the nerd to get back from whatever Aizawa held them back for. Can you believe that Midoriya knew someone quirkless? Dun's face said. I know, right? I would never even talk to someone like that, Raccoon Eyes replied. I'm kinda glad that his friend didn't make it into UA. That would be too dangerous for a quirkless person, Shitty Hair said. I wonder where his friend went, though. Deku seemed sad when he said that, Roundcheeks said, frowning. Don't they have, like, an all-quirkless school or something? Kaminari asks. I would believe so. It would be inefficient to place quirkless people with normal students, Glasses states. I guess that makes sense. I wouldn't want to go to a school with a quirkless student, Raccoon Eyes says, making a face. I wonder where it is though. I bet we could set up a meeting so Deku can see his friend again, Roundcheeks proposed. That is a wonderful idea, Ponytail agrees. Katsuki had enough of this. How blind could they be? What the fuck do you think Deku meant when he said his friend left? He snapped, walking into the common room. That he fucking went to Canada? No, dipshits, he took us one. Kachan, a voice spoke up from behind him, stopping the sentence Katsuki was going to say. He turned around and found Deku holding his textbook in his arms. It wasn't your fault, Deku said, looking down. Then why does it feel like it is? Katsuki wants to ask. Instead, he says, We need to talk. Deku nods before turning away and walking up the stairs. He never took the elevator. Katsuki turned to look at the group. This isn't over. I'll be back to beat some sense into you. He waited for someone to dare and defy him. He left when no one did. The walk to Deku's room was short, but not short enough. Deku had left the door open a crack, so Katsuki marched right in, closing the door behind him. What do you want to talk about? Asked Izuku. Why did you lie to Ozawa? He asked. Katsuki knew Deku his whole life, and he rarely lies, and never about anything like this. I didn't, Deku answers. You did. You basically told him you killed yourself, Bakugo says. I didn't kill myself. He did. That quirkless kid died, and it's my fault, Deku shouts. You are him. We're not the same. He was quirkless and useless. I have a quirk. I have worth now, Deku argues. He was never useless. You were never useless, Katsuki argues back. He never thought he'd say that out loud, but as soon as he said it, he knew it was true. You were the one who told me he was, Deku snaps. I was fucking wrong, okay? Katsuki says. I was wrong, but I'm too late to make amends. It's not too late if it was never supposed to happen, Deku says, barely above a whisper. It's my fault for letting him die like that. If it's anyone's fault, it's mine, Katsuki snaps back. It's my fault that quirkless kid never got a chance to be a hero. I know that now. Katsuki tries not to cry. I need to atone, he says, his voice trembling, feeling hoarse. He refuses to cry. He can't cry over something that's his fault. You weren't the one that let him die, Deku states, tears falling freely down his face. You weren't the one who killed him. Do I deserve to be the one living? Deku asks, failing to stop the tears that fall down his face. Bakugo knew the answer. He grew up right alongside this boy, after all. Hey guys, I hope you enjoyed this video. These 2 chapters were really intense. I mean, the 4th chapter was very intense. A lot of emotions, a lot of, I guess, heartbreak involved. But it's interesting seeing the 3rd chapter all the history behind Izuku and Naomasa, because it was definitely implied in chapter 2, like there was a rich history between the two. But yeah. Anyways, I'll see you guys later. Bye.